My name is Amanda, and I'd like to share why I'm going on the mission trip this summer. Since I've been at this church, I always thought it would be good to go on a mission trip. While as a student, I didn't go, and once I finished school, there are many reasons and distractions that prevented me. It wasn't until last summer, after the missionaries came back from their first trip to Samoa, that I felt God urging me to finally go. At that point, God had been working in me to come to a greater understanding of who He is, and also to develop a greater faith in Him. For the past year, I had been doing the Master Life Discipleship training in a small group at Joyce Seminary. The material we went through kept challenging me to expand my view of God, and the further we got in the books, the more God was showing me what it really means to be a Christian and what it means to have a close and dependent relationship with Him. I realized that in many ways, I was a worldly and immature Christian, and the reason that I could not grow was because I was unwilling to fully put my trust in God and to submit to His will. My view of God then was that of a demanding taskmaster, and to follow Him meant a life of sacrifice and suffering. And I didn't want to suffer. I wanted to travel, have a nice home, and a comfortable life. So thankfully God was encouraging me towards more. Before the missionaries came back last summer, I watched the movie True Grit for the first time. I was so inspired by the main character, Maddie Ross, a 14-year-old girl who, with the help of a U.S. Marshal, went out into the wild in the middle of winter to find her father's killer. She had courage, the conviction to do what is right, and also an unshakable faith in God. I realized after watching the movie that my whole life was about comfort, about not taking risks, not sticking my neck out, but only doing what is easy and comfortable for me, and seeking to make my life more easy and comfortable. I was challenged that to follow God, I could not stay in shallow water anymore. He was calling me out to really exercise my faith, to do hard things for Him. After the missionaries came back, I was really touched by the testimonies of the people in Samoa and what God was doing there. It broke my heart to hear of these people that had so little, yet were so loved by God and were so full of His joy. I was convicted that God has so generously blessed me and was now asking me to come out of my comfort zone and share what He's given me with others, to do hard things for God. So I committed to going to Samoa on the Samoa mission trip the next summer. Well, almost a year had passed, and it was time to start preparing for this summer's mission trip. Though I had committed to going before, I felt that my circumstances had changed, and I wasn't sure if I should go anymore. At work, my dental office was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, and due to cutbacks, they reduced my working hours by half. The environment there had also become very chaotic and toxic, and I was desperately looking for a new job with more hours, less drama, and friendly coworkers. Financially, I did not feel prepared for the mission trip, and I didn't know if I would be able to leave if I found a new job. Also at the time, I'd been meeting with doctors to check out a vascular condition in my head. Basically, some of the blood vessels in my brain are not fully developed, and due to the constricted blood flow, the progressive nature of the disease, people with my condition have a greater risk of stroke after they turn 30. I had MRIs and tests done when I was younger, but hadn't had any since. And since I'm turning 30 this year and planning to have kids, I wanted to make sure everything was healthy and find out if I would need surgery, which I told myself if I did, I would not be going on the mission trip. Lastly, my sister Amy and Brian's brother Andy unexpectedly moved in with us. To say the least, my controlled, quiet, and stable environment turned upside down, and the home that before offered peace, comfort, and security no longer existed. I was struggling to help Amy adjust to living on her own, while Andy was there to be a front row spectator of my frustrations and failures. My quiet moments with Brian, which usually refreshed me after a long day, were now rare and usually ended in arguments. We were both exhausted because of circumstances at work. Brian was working overtime, worrying about my health and the new changes at home. I felt that this was not a good time to go on a mission trip, and I kept trying to convince myself that, but underneath it all, I couldn't find peace with my answer. Then Pastor Daniel visited for a retreat. I came to the retreat completely drained, and the messages were so timely and relevant. I could see myself on the road to Emmaus, and like Esau, I was completely famished, but thinking of the comforts and quick fixes instead of God's promises. Pastor Daniel spoke about what my true identity is, a child of God, and how there is no rest when I am not depending on my Abba Father. Pastor Daniel also shared the framework of what it means to be a Christian. Number one, the greatest event in history mystery that Jesus Christ came to the world to love and die and save all mankind. And 2, the next greatest event was the going forth of the church to embody the life of Christ and to spread the knowledge of his salvation throughout the earth. This really challenged me to realign my values with God's, and I realized it's not about me and it's all about Jesus. There are so many other good points, and I had to rededicate my life back to God. I realized I was spiritually dry, my prayer and devotion life was lacking, and instead of seeking God in my circumstances, I was pushing him away. But God was with me the whole time, calling me to a deeper level of commitment to him and a greater faith in him. I had been constantly telling God no, because I was afraid to venture even further from my already strained comfort zone. And I was afraid to say yes, because I knew that would take me to Samoa, and with each deeper commitment, there was no end where God could take me. In the end, I had to proclaim God is good, and trust that through all my hard circumstances, everything was possible with God. And if it's his will for me to go to Samoa, then I can only praise him and obey. So I committed to going to Samoa again. And God, in his perfect way, has been working things out. Instead of losing my job, God has been keeping my office financially afloat. Staying there has given me the flexibility to take days off for the mission trip and my hospital visits, and the working environment in general has been better. Life at home has greatly improved as well. Though after all my tests, I was told that I would need brain surgery. At first, this news devastated me, and I kept worrying about missing work and what if I didn't wake up from surgery. But through lots of prayer and encouragement from others, I had to put my faith again in God. No matter what happens, God is good, and he has been guiding me through all the tests, providing me with health insurance and the support of so many people. So I had to recommit again in my heart to go to Samoa. I was convicted that no matter how my circumstances have changed, God's will was still the same, and my commitment to go should be too. And recently, with Tom Luke's help, we're getting a second opinion, and for now it looks like surgery might not be needed after all. We're continuing to pray for a clear answer. As we get ready to go to Samoa, I'm filled with excitement to meet and serve the people there, with great expectation of how God will bless us, and a little fear, not really knowing what to expect. My prayer requests are for total dependence on God and deepening of my faith and obedience to him, to see more from God's perspective, for my heart to be stretched for the lost ones in Samoa and Seattle, and for God's guidance and protection for our mission trip. Thank you so much for all your prayers. God is so good, and I'm looking forward to see how he will work through this trip and continue to bless the people